Hey everyone, welcome back to Genai's World News. I'm Genai, and we have a packed show for you today. Let's dive straight into one of the biggest breaking stories of the day. According to BBC News, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has formally rejected a 15-point peace proposal put forward by the Trump administration aimed at ending the conflict in Gaza. Netanyahu's position is clear. Israel will not withdraw its military forces from the territory until Hamas has been, in his words, genuinely disarmed. The rejection marks a significant diplomatic setback for Washington, which has been pushing hard to broker a ceasefire deal. BBC News reports the proposal was a comprehensive framework covering everything from troop withdrawals to reconstruction guarantees, but Israeli leadership remains unconvinced that any deal can guarantee long-term security without the full dismantling of Hamas's military capabilities. The situation on the ground in Gaza remains dire, and with this rejection, the path to a negotiated end to the conflict looks considerably longer and more complicated. We'll keep tracking this story closely. Now, shifting our gaze northward to a story with massive geopolitical implications. China is making a bold move in the Arctic. As reported by the Financial Times in today's First FT newsletter, China has sailed what it is calling the Ice Silk Road, a maritime route cutting through Arctic waters. This isn't just an adventurous shipping path. It's a strategic play. As climate change continues to melt Arctic ice, new trade routes are opening up that could dramatically cut travel times between Asia and Europe, bypassing traditional choke points entirely. Beijing's investment in Arctic navigation is part of its broader Belt and Road Initiative, extending China's economic and geopolitical reach into regions that have historically been dominated by Western and Russian interests. The Financial Times notes the development comes alongside other significant global stories today, including growing concerns about Russia's influence in northern territories. For the Arctic nations, Canada, the United States, Norway, and others, China's increasing presence in the region is raising serious strategic alarm bells. This is a story about trade, power, and the future geography of global commerce, and it's one we'll be watching very carefully. Here's a story that's got markets buzzing and has serious long-term strategic consequences. The United States is putting serious money into cutting China out of the rare earth supply chain. The Financial Times is reporting that the Trump administration has provided a $400 million loan to Sunrise Energy, an Australian rare earth mining company, to develop a scandium project. Scandium is a critical mineral used in aerospace, fuel cells, and advanced manufacturing, and right now, China dominates its global supply. Shares in Sunrise Energy soared on the news, reflecting just how significant this investment is seen to be. This move is part of a wider U.S. strategy to secure critical mineral supply chains independent of Chinese influence, a concern that has grown dramatically as U.S.-China trade tensions continue to escalate. By backing an Australian company, Washington is also deepening its strategic ties with Canberra, reinforcing the AUKUS and Five Eyes alliance frameworks. This is the kind of economic statecraft that shapes industries and geopolitical alignments for decades to come, so don't sleep on this one. Now to a deeply troubling report from the front lines of Russia's domestic war mobilization effort. According to the Financial Times, Moscow is increasingly resorting to coercive and deceptive methods to enlist soldiers for its ongoing war against Ukraine. The report paints a grim picture. Russian authorities are conducting raids in public spaces, workplaces, and even residential buildings to press men into military service. Deception is also being used, with some men reportedly being tricked into signing contracts under false pretenses about the nature of their deployment. Pressure is being applied to employers and local officials to meet recruitment quotas. This escalation in recruitment tactics suggests that voluntary enlistment numbers are falling well short of what the Kremlin needs to sustain its military campaign. The Financial Times notes this story was also highlighted in today's First FT briefing as one of the most significant global developments. For observers of the conflict, this is a telling sign of strain within Russia's war machine, and it has implications not only for the battlefield but for Russian society itself. In a major geopolitical development that signals a tectonic shift in Middle Eastern power dynamics, Syria has struck a deal to take control of Russian military bases on its territory. The Financial Times reports this is being described as a strategic blow for Moscow, coming at a moment when the Trump administration is reportedly moving closer to the current Damascus government. Russia has maintained two key military installations in Syria, the Mimim Air Base and the Tartus Naval Facility, which have served as critical power projection platforms in the Mediterranean and the Middle East for years. Losing operational control of these sites would significantly diminish Russia's military reach in the region. The deal appears to reflect the dramatic transformation of Syria's political landscape following the fall of the previous regime, with new Syrian leadership clearly signaling it intends to chart a different course when it comes to foreign military presences on its soil. Washington's warming relationship with Damascus adds another layer of complexity here. Essentially, what we're witnessing could be a strategic repositioning that benefits U.S. interests while dealing a meaningful setback to Russian influence in the Mediterranean. Huge story with long-term ripple effects. Closer to the natural world now, and a very serious emergency unfolding in Western Canada. BBC News is reporting that the Bald Range wildfire in British Columbia has burned out of control, spreading across more than 53 square miles of terrain. Tragically, one person has already died. Residents in the affected area have been warned to brace for the worst, with evacuation orders in place and emergency services stretched to their limits. Wildfires in British Columbia have become increasingly severe in recent years, driven by prolonged dry spells, higher temperatures, and shifting weather patterns consistent with broader climate trends. The scale of this fire, growing rapidly with no containment in sight at the time of reporting, is putting enormous pressure on both local communities and provincial emergency management systems. BBC News notes that the situation remains highly dynamic, and authorities are urging anyone in the region to stay informed and be ready to evacuate at a moment's notice. Our thoughts are with everyone affected by this devastating fire. To the Persian Gulf now, where tensions over the Strait of Hormuz are showing no signs of easing, and a key leadership change is raising fresh questions. The Financial Times reports that Iran has hardened its rhetorical position, with Tehran insisting the United States must meet new conditions before Iran will consider reopening the critical waterway. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the world's most important oil transit choke points. Roughly 20% of global petroleum supplies pass through it, so any prolonged closure has enormous consequences for energy markets worldwide. Simultaneously, the Financial Times is reporting a significant personnel change. Mohsen Rezai has been appointed as head of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, replacing Mohammad Bagher Zalgadar, who has stepped down. Rezai is a hardline figure with deep roots in the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and his appointment at this sensitive moment in negotiations, reportedly involving Oman as a mediator, could signal a toughening of Iran's overall posture. Analysts will be watching very closely to see whether this change in leadership reflects a deliberate shift in negotiating strategy or internal political maneuvering. Either way, global energy markets are paying close attention. And finally, wrapping up today's show with a dramatic legal development out of Ireland. According to BBC News, suspected organized crime boss Daniel Kinahan has been extradited from Dubai and has appeared before a court in Dublin, where he was formally charged with directing the activities of a criminal organization. The 49-year-old's return to Ireland is the culmination of years of international law enforcement cooperation. His case had long been complicated by his residence in the UAE, a jurisdiction not typically known for extraditing individuals to European nations. BBC News reports that the Irish Prison Service went so far as to purchase a specially reinforced bulletproof and bomb-proof van just to transport Kinahan safely to court, a striking illustration of just how significant and high-risk this case is considered to be. Kinahan has long been linked by authorities to one of the most dangerous criminal networks operating across Ireland and the United Kingdom. His extradition and court appearance represents a major moment for Irish law enforcement, which has spent more than a decade trying to bring him before the justice system. This one is far from over, but today was a very significant first step. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for today's Genai World News. If you found today's coverage informative, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe so you never miss a story. We cover the world so you don't have to. I'm Genai. Stay informed, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.